I think Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 just might be the best cinematic drone simulator out there. Now, this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but hear me out. All you need for a pretty authentic experience is an Xbox controller, or if you're fancy like me, you can use a remote controller that has the ability to plug into the computer and become a gaming device. Whether you actually want to practice your cinematic drone chops, or maybe you just want to set up your in-game camera so the controls correspond to how a cinematic camera drone operates, this video will help you do that. Now, Flight Sim 2024 is not going to be the best simulator for FPV freestyle or racing drones. Although if a third-party developer comes out with an FPV drone and they nail the physics, it might just be able to claim that title. For FPV drone simulators, you want to have a look at Liftoff, Velocidrone, Uncrashed, or DRL Sim. The drones that I'm talking about, the cinematic camera drones, are the ones that fly smooth and flat. They also take great photographs. The previous iteration of Microsoft Flight Sim, Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, had what they call a drone camera, where essentially you can fly around the plane, around the airport, even around cities. This new sim also has the capability, but the graphics are so much better. The detail of the terrain, the plants, the trees. There's also a new photo feature where you can take in-game photos and complete photography challenges. The drone camera and the photo camera are for some reason two separate features. Funny enough, the original drone camera, the one also available in the previous version, seems to have the best controls and settings to properly simulate a cinematic drone camera for videography. The reason why the original drone camera feature is better than the new photo camera feature is the ability to control its maximum speed. So far, I've been unable to adjust the translation and the rotation speeds on the photo camera. There just seems to be no options to change that in the settings. So what ends up happening is that, especially if you want to fly close to something, the speed is going to be way too fast, it's going to be way too jerky, and it's not going to produce a great effect. This is not such a big deal on the photo camera, where you're just taking stills. To lock in your position is kind of difficult because the drone could move, or the photo camera moves like 2 feet at a time, and it's very abrupt, and it's really hard to lock in your composition. Hopefully Microsoft and Asobo can implement some of the same speed settings from the old drone camera and integrate them into the new photo camera, or maybe even just combine the two, because I'm not exactly certain why they need to be separate in the first place. A quick note about controllers: an Xbox controller will have the proper mechanics of a real camera drone controller, with the left axis returning to center, whereas a drone remote controller, the left Y-axis will stay in place. The good thing about a drone controller is that the sticks are longer, which will allow you to have slightly more precise controls. So plug in the Xbox controller or the drone RC into the computer, load up Microsoft Flight Sim, and let's configure the drone camera settings to reflect the controls of a cinematic camera drone. You can find the drone camera controls in Settings, Controls, Camera, Drone camera. Probably the better way to find what you're looking for is to use the search functions. You can search for the name of the control to help you find it faster. To make the drone camera translate back and forth, search for the drone Z translation axis. Click to change the input and move the right stick up. Let's try this out in the game. Press Shift X to activate the drone camera and see if it moves back and forth to your liking. You must be inside of an aircraft to activate the drone camera for some reason. Now, when you try out your controls, some controls will be reversed. So to fix it, click on the settings icon and then flip the switch Set Inverted Axis. The next thing to do, which is very important for precise control, which you should do on every axis, is to go to Tweak Action Curve and set both X and Y rates to about -0.5. Feel free to play around with this. If you find the camera's too jerky, decrease the slider. If it's not responsive enough, increase the slider. If you want to set this feature on the photo camera, again, the photo camera is the new feature that Microsoft implemented that takes in-game photos. Search simply for Z translation axis. These particular photo camera settings are found under the camera photo control settings. Finish searching for and changing the rest of these controls, testing them out, inverting the control if needed, and setting the Expo curve to your liking. If you're using an Xbox controller, the camera gimbal pitch, which is like you looking up and down, can be controlled with the left and right bottom triggers. I happen to be fortunate enough to have a DJI FPV controller, which has a wheel that is specifically for this purpose. So once you have all your controls set up using the drone camera, you might notice that everything moves really fast, which is okay if you need to cover a lot of ground. However, if you want to get real close to something and have very precise movement, we need to decrease the drone translation speed as well as the drone rotation speed. The translation speed can be changed by pressing Shift G or T, and the drone rotation speed can be changed by pressing Shift F or R. These values seem to be on a slider from like 0 to 100. So it's probably best to hold the Shift and G key so that it brings it all the way down to 0, and then press Shift and hit the T key to achieve the speed that you're looking for. These speeds can also be found in the camera settings on the upper tab. There are two important camera controls that you're going to want to know. One is how to increase and decrease the exposure. Press the G and T keys to lower and increase the exposure respectively. The other is how to control the point of focus or depth of field. You will need to press 3 on the keyboard to enable the ability to use depth of field. And to control the focus point, you use the Y and H keys. The next thing you want to do is change the weather settings. There are a number of helpful presets, but you can also adjust the cloud cover layers, the density and altitude, and you can also change the time of day to get that perfect sunset. Also remember the fact that the sun will rise and set at different points throughout the year, so you can change the month and the day to create your perfect shot. If you actually wanted to record video of the drone floating around in the sky, you can use screen capture software like OBS Studio. It's free and it's the one that I use. There are a couple of moves that you can try that I use with my actual drone to get some interesting shots. The first and simplest is just flying straight, but if you angle the camera down slightly and fly close enough to something, you can reveal the main object. This ends up being an awesome shot. Another thing you could do is just go straight over top something, look straight down, and either fly upward slowly or fly downward slowly. Or you can do a left or right truck. The key to any of these cinematic drone movements is to hold the sticks for longer than you think you need to and don't make any changes. Lock in those sticks. When you get more comfortable, you can start orbiting things and trying to use all 5 axes at once. Now, to become a better drone videographer in general, it might be useful to study elements of photography like composition to help you figure out how to position your drone or camera to make stunning photographs or videos. Now, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is relatively new, just released. They have a couple of things that I think they should work on. Here are some things that I would like to see resolved. I'd like the ability to turn on and off the photo grid and overlay so that I can use the photo camera to record video. I think it would also be beneficial to have the ability to control the maximum speed of this photo camera, just like the drone camera, because it would be nice to be able to get really close to things and have very smooth footage. One thing I noticed when messing around with the input curves is that in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, you can actually move the sticks and actually see the point on the curve that you're currently working on. This hasn't been implemented, at least yet, for 2024. That would be something I'd like to see. There is some weird wording in some of the camera. The photo translate axis wording seems a little bit incorrect. It would also be beneficial to use the drone camera when you're not sitting in an airplane. Although I think if they just combine the two features, the drone camera and the photo camera, that this would be a non-issue. And it would also be awesome if some third-party developer made a FPV drone or even a cinematic drone with proper physics, and then we could actually select that as an aircraft and fly it around. If this video was helpful, please give it a like. Thanks for hanging out. Take care.